guys, finally back here with Backcountry Ballistics. I apologize for the delay in getting videos out. As of recent, we took on a massive home renovation project, but we are finally through that, and I'll be back to putting some videos out on a more frequent basis. So yeah, just got done with that. Today's video, we're going to go over kind of some interesting things I've learned as of the last week or so, especially this weekend. Some things kind of came to light that I knew, but at the same time, I think are really important to share with you guys, and some things that you guys can look at in your rifle systems and things like that if you are struggling with something or something seems a little off. But yeah, I want to say thank you guys. I really appreciate the support for the channel as of recently. This channel is all from me. It's not bought and paid for. There's nobody giving me stuff. I'm doing this. I'm taking my time and my time away from my family and things like that. So the feedback's really nice and encouraging. And please comment below if you guys have any videos you want to see or have questions that maybe I don't know the answer to, but we can kind of find the answer out together. But yeah, today we're talking about bipods. So in my previous video, when I built my match rifle this year, I put this bipod right here on it. This is a Ryder Industries. This is the Ryder Match 9 bipod. This is an awesome bipod for a lot of different shooting situations. It has an Arca clamp on it that is a quick detach, which is a great feature. You can lock out the pan and the cant really easy. Goes this position here, as well as all the way up to like a full triple pull height, which is really cool for NRL hunter competitions in particular. Best part about this bipod is the price point. Comes in right at just sub $300. So in comparison to products like the MBT triple pull and things like that, this bipod is super awesome. I was really excited to shoot this bipod on that rifle, and did so last weekend. I shot for NRL one-day competition in Jerome, Idaho, and did okay. Had a couple weird things happen. If any of you guys have shot NRL hunters before, you know that match directors don't typically throw in a lot of like prone positions. It's typically a front bag, rear tripod, tall bipod, or some weird alternate version of like maybe a prone supported or something like that. Not saying there isn't any prone positions, but there just aren't a lot of stages that are kind of like prone dedicated. And I had struggled in those stages, which was kind of weird for me. This rifle I put together, finished that project, went right into the renovation project, so kind of left you guys hanging on the load development stuff a little bit. We'll go back later on and kind of touch on some load development stuff if you guys want. But the rifle shot pretty good. I was shooting the Berger 140s. They were grouping, I'd say, half-inch, three-quarter-ish type of groups. Nothing that was one whole 10-round group type of group, but they were doing well enough for what I needed the rifle for. I had realistic expectations. It's a factory Aero Precision barrel. I didn't expect it to shoot like a custom, super high-end Bartline barrel. But during that load development process, I had a couple days where I would leave the range with a certain charge weight and or seating depth, and the rifle shot well. Then I would come back the next range trip with the same exact load, shoot another group, 5-shot group with it, and it would open up double or triple. It was just kind of weird. Figured that was maybe the barrel breaking in and just some anomalies in the barrel, and kind of went through the whole load development process that way. Found a load that shot well. This still shoots well, like I'm happy with it, but last weekend, struggling in those prone stages was kind of eye-opening to me. I'd never necessarily struggled in those. If you guys are familiar with like competition shooting, they were like troop line type stages, or 2 targets, 2 positions, where one position was prone, and I would whiff on 3 or 2 of the 4 shots in the prone position, and then go and hit 2 for 2 in the prone supported position, or the front bag rear tripod type of thing. So kind of weird. Definitely chalked it up as to me just being a little bit rusty and just needing to get better at shooting, because that's what we're all here for, right? We consume this content, we shoot our rifles, we do all these things to be better at shooting and hunting, and do all these shooting competitions so that someday, if we're ever looking at a 200-inch buck, it's not the shot's not the issue, right? So all that being said, just kind of chalked it up as that. Okay, well, it's the first match of the year. I'll get better, and things will get better. This weekend, went out with a buddy to the range and shot a box of factory Burger 153.5 grain hybrid targets. They were on sale at a local sporting goods store, and snagged a box and thought, well, man, maybe I'll just try a real heavy for caliber bullet. That 153 in a 6.5 Creedmoor is about as heavy as you can get in a 6.5 bullet. So I thought, man, I'll try it and see how they shoot. I got groups here. This is going to be kind of difficult. I will take pictures of all this and overlay it on the video. So I'm going to hold them up and talk about the targets and stuff, but I'll do a close-up as I'm talking about it. So this is just the groups that I shot doing that load develop, or not load development, but that kind of that checking of that load. Shot a good 5-shot here, good 5-shot there, really good 5-shot here, and then my last one had 9 shots left, and they were all over the place. So thought that was kind of weird. Had like a couple of bullets left after this group, and went out to 700 yards on a very large piece of steel at 700, and yes, it's 700 yards, but missed very high. Impact missed really low, which was weird. I mean, we're talking a 3-foot difference at 700 yards. I'm not talking shooting 1 MOA plates at 700, probably 5, 6, 7 MOA plates. They're giant plates, and to miss those was kind of concerning. And I was like, man, that seemed a little bit weird. So I went back to my 140 loads that I had been shooting and shot those at 100 yards on paper, and got this group right here. And this group measures it out at about 1.24 inches or so, so 1.25 inches, which is significantly more than what I have been shooting with this gun. Not saying that it's again, my gun is not a 1/4 inch gun. I don't claim to be. I'm not a 1/4 inch shooter, if I'm being honest with you. But this was kind of concerning. It raised a lot of, my spidey senses kind of started tingling, and I was like, man, I wonder if something's loose on my system. So, part 1 of this video, when you check your gun and you check 0, I think it's pretty standard for most guys to go out, before they shoot long range or before they go on a hunt or something like that, they'll check 0. That's a phenomenal, practice. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. Sometimes you're not in a position where you can do that. If you drive or hiking super far in the mountains, the last thing you want to do is spend a day getting somewhere 9 miles into the backcountry and then take a shot at a rock at 100 yards just to make sure you're on 0. Especially if you're not shooting suppressed and you're a caveman like me. That's not something you want to do. You want to blow up a basin just to check 0. But checked 0, and I was like, oof, that seems very different than what I had been seeing with that gun. So my immediate thought was something has to be off with my system. The first thing I do when I have that type of situation come up is I check torque on every actionable piece of hardware on my gun. I check my muzzle brake to make sure it's tight. I check my cap screws on my top of my scope to make sure those are tight. I check the screws on the side of the scope rings to make sure those are tight to the rail. I check my action screws. I check my trigger if I'm able to. Like, I check my bolt to make sure I don't have a weird piece of soft brass or dirt that's in my bolt face that's causing the cartridge to sit a little wonky or something like that. Aside from completely disassembling the rifle, I torque everything back down to the same specs. A little trick there is, like you saw in that rifle build video, I put paint pen on all my screw heads, so I can just visually look and be like, oh no, my action screws are not lined up where they should be. But I did that yesterday, and nothing changed. Shot another group right here. Again, I'll take another picture of this, but again, this is a 1.5 inch group, not what I'm used to shooting out of that rifle, and that's kind of the limit of what I would consider acceptable for anything, really. That's not something that I'm just gonna say, oh, I'm not better than that as a shooter. I don't say that often, but I know I'm better than that as a shooter. So something seemed weird. First thing my mind went to, for whatever reason, was this bipod. This bipod is very, I can't say enough good things about it. I really, really, really like it. However, when you lay it out and you're shooting prone off of it, it is a little bouncy. And what I mean by that is you can see through recoil the leg, I don't know if it's the legs necessarily flexing, the head flexing, I'm not sure exactly, but it just doesn't seem quite right. So I was with a buddy, and he had a different, just more simplified, very, very robust bipod. I put that on there, and I shot this group right here, which was about a 0.57 or so. And then I went over here and shot this group, which was I think it was just under a 0.6. So that was really interesting to me. And I think that that's something that oftentimes as shooters, we get married to things, be it a piece of equipment, a rifle, a caliber, a cartridge, a lot of different things. We spend a lot of hard-earned money and time into developing a load or developing a rifle or something like that, I really like this bipod. The company is super, super awesome. Even after having this experience, I reached out to them and they were awesome. Like, the guy emailed me back at 10 a.m. on a Saturday within 10 minutes. You don't get better customer service than that. And the product itself is phenomenal. I've seen one issue with these leg bolts loosening up in the field on a hunt for a friend of mine, but from my experience, like, I haven't had an issue. And but not being married to this product, going and testing something else immediately, and checking to make sure that, take one thing at a time. Maybe it's the bipod, try a different bipod. Wow, we got lucky, that was the first time, right? Scopes can lose 0, or they can lose their ability to retain 0. What I was saying is my group didn't open up width-wise, or, it didn't go from a half MOA to a 4 MOA in every conceivable direction. Both of these targets show me that my group is opening up vertically. When I was missing targets last weekend, I would be a little high, a little low, a little high, a little low. And in the moment, I didn't stop and, obviously I'm in a match, so I can't just stop and recheck 0 or recheck things. But I didn't stop and really let that sink in. I was like, oh, my dope for my gun's not right. It's the first match I've shot with it. It's the first time I've been to this range with these binos, and there's so many different variables going on with the long range precision, like you guys know, but it's just like, I didn't click in my head that, no, Gus, stop, like, think what's going on in the scenario, and think through that. Is there something you can do different? Is there something you can adjust or change, or is there something that you can do? But all that being said, guys, I just wanted to point out the fact that bipods matter. I think in my mind, honestly, really up until this situation, in my mind, I judged a bipod by how stable the gun was behind it. So when I first started shooting rifles, obviously I started when I was a kid and that kind of thing, but when I kind of started getting back into long range shooting and rifle hunting in particular, it was a few years ago, and I was rocking like a super cheap Magpul plastic bipod. And I shouldn't say super cheap, they're still relatively expensive, but when you feel them in comparison to some of these, they feel cheap. But it was plastic, all the lockup points were plastic, meaning metal or things like that, to where the whole thing had a lot of flex in it. But I shot that bipod really well. And I think what it was is I became so accustomed to loading the bipod with that bipod, meaning I would put forward pressure from my stock to muzzle in a straight line into that bipod to have that lockup, but I was judging it all off of my sight picture. I wasn't judging how the bipod reacted through recoil. So I have a chassis here, and we're going to use this rider for an example, but again, like meaning loading the bipod, like if you feel this bipod, there's a little bit of slop here. You don't want to be back sometimes, forward sometimes, pulling different directions, putting different torque on the rifle system, because what's going to happen is if, through recoil, that gun's going to recoil back, and that's going to pick up that slack, or if you're all the way at the back, then that could pull different than if you are loading it hard forward the next shot. But that being said, it really kind of brought to my attention the fact that, maybe bipods, there's more to bipods than just being able to get stable behind them. I can tell you for 100% certainty, this bipod, when I extend it all the way out and have a tripod rear as a rear rest and rear stability, I am incredibly stable with this bipod. And I'm talking a tenth or 2/10 max of wobble in my sight picture. So I always thought this thing did really, really well until I saw this weekend. Meaning there's enough going on here in the mechanical system of this. Maybe I am doing something wrong as a shooter to where I'm not allowing this to work 100% to its capability. So it was funny when I was at the range, I called my mentor and said, hey, what do you think about this? And he was like, well, when I shoot those in the past or whatever, I have to load them really hard. And I was like, okay. So I went and shot the same group. And actually, this group was shooting my normal way, which is, I don't know, I'd call it like slightly loaded into the bipod, but not like really driving the bipod in. And then this group, which is even larger, was really driving that bipod in and loading the crap out of it. But I got the same result. So I don't know. To me, not worth investigating any further. I found a weak point in my system. I'm going to change that and move on. But that being said, I don't want to talk disparagingly about this company. I think they're a really cool company. They're a young company for sure. But that being said, I think that they have a lot of really good things going. They make a 6-inch version that I actually ran the exact same test that I did with this in my with my gun, with my buddy's gun. He has a 6-inch version. We ran the really rock solid single pole from MDT, and then we went and shot the 6-inch rider version, and we saw similar things, but much, much, much less exaggerated. So keep that in mind. Again, I think they're a cool company, and I think they're going to figure this out and do really well. But yeah, there's that. This is a bipod that I've used a ton and had a lot of really, really good success with, and that's just the Atlas Cal. So this is about as simple as as you can make a bipod, and for it to function, there's a 45 degree to the front. You fold all the way up, you fold all the way down. There's a pan feature, meaning left to right. So if you're shooting on a hill, you can take up that slack. I have mine incredibly locked out, as you can see, but it does pan. I have a simple Picatinny disconnect on this because that's what I run on my hunting gun, and this is what I run on my hunting gun. There is no pan feature, meaning if the rifle's here, you're not going to swing your barrel left and right type of deal. I love that. A lot of these bipods that do have that, you can't actually block that out enough to get rid of that, and so then as you're behind the gun, your gun's kind of free-floating left and right or on the x-axis, if you will. So Atlas Cal, cannot recommend it enough for hunting rifles and things like that. Most guys shooting precision rifle in long range, this is going to be an awesome, awesome, awesome bipod. Yeah, just wanted to run through that one. Then talking about the the slop or the lockup of a bipod. I have a good example here. I will 100% throw this company under the bus because it's just a cheap. It's a cheap Amazon knockoff of that Atlas. This is it has a swivel in it though, rather than just being the non-panning feature. But if you look here, we're talking a lot of play in this bipod. A lot of play in this bipod. And what that means as a shooter is I have to be ultra consistent, meaning I have to drive that bipod forward and load that bipod every time I press the trigger. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not. But in the situations where perhaps you're shooting uphill a little bit and you have this extended, maybe, yep, there we go. And it's a little bit harder for you to put pressure forward on the rifle because the weight of the rifle is pulling it back into your shoulder. That just changed your point of impact, and it changed your ability to rely on that bipod consistently. But that being said, those are, and I actually don't have one right now, but those plastic Magpul ones were really similar to this, honestly, and they shot really well because they were consistent. You just have to do your part as a shooter. But not necessarily here to endorse or say certain bipods are great, certain bipods are terrible, but I figured that out this weekend, guys. One, if something doesn't feel right with your system, don't just keep sending rounds. You're just wasting money and time at that point. But at the same time, have a checklist. Ooh, that group was really, really big. Let me double check that real quick. Action screws, scope caps, scope bases, trigger if you can. Check my chassis to make sure everything on my chassis is tight. check my scope to make sure I'm back at 0, check my scope to make sure my parallax is right? Have that checklist of things ready to go that in a match, like if this would have happened in a match, I would have kind of been hosed, guys, like probably in a pretty bad way. So have that checklist accessible, whether you keep it on your phone or something like that. But again, just findings that I've had in the last week or so that I thought were pretty interesting, and I wanted to share them with you guys. As always, nobody's paid me to do any of these. Yes, this bipod I had an issue with. However, I have quite a few friends that have ran this bipod in competition and in hunting and stuff like that. These bipods are awesome, guys. Like, don't take my one issue or one bad experience for all it's worth. But at the same time, I am an independent channel. Nobody's paying me this or paying me to do this, so I also had an issue. Like, that's something that I recognize, and I'm not going to tell you guys, oh, it's the best bipod, you have to have it, because, well, my experience so far has been pretty limited, but the limited experience I've had, it hasn't been great. I will say the customer service side, though, I would honestly probably try another one from them at some point just because of how good that customer service was. So that being said, again, just my 2 cents, guys. It was super interesting, though, to see that big a difference. We're talking groups opening up, 3x of what they were. So for what it's worth, that's just kind of where I'm at. And yeah, check your stuff and check your systems. But thanks again, guys. I'm gonna get off this video now, but really, truly thank you guys. Been a lot of good feedback, like I said, and please make sure you pass these videos around, share them with people you know, like them, comment on them, comment below what you guys want to see coming up. I have quite a few videos in the works. We are going to do some ELR type videos where we're going to shoot some stuff at crazy distances, and we're going to show kind of everything that does go into play at that distance. And we can do some other things. We're going to do some glassing comparison, not necessarily in a traditional sense, but more on a skill level sense. So just some things like that coming up. But again, guys, thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time.